Hi, I'm Jodie, a relationship and sex therapist based in Southern California, and today we are continuing the Love Island reaction series with episode 27. Just looking at kind of my notes from this episode, one of the things that kind of came up right in the beginning, which I really enjoyed, was this link between accountability and empathy. For a lot of my couples, I am teaching repair. What does repair actually look like? Whether it be being there in the moment, right, when we're having a conflict, or repairing it afterwards. What does actual connection and repair look like? We're still kind of feeling the residual effects of movie night, and a lot of feelings got hurt. And one of the biggest things, especially with the boys, but Kenzie was kind of exhibiting this as well, is how do you actually connect with that pain? And so one of the things that they were talking about was when people actually take accountability and say, yes, I can totally see how that thing that I did hurt you. And they actually describe it. It makes it feel like they get it. It makes it feel like they give a shit. And that is some of the primary components for providing empathy, which is usually for a lot of my clients and couples, the number one thing they're looking for. Not everything needs to be fixed or a solution. Some things aren't going to be fixed. Sometimes we want to leave space for that. But you don't even get the buy-in to do that until there's been accountability and empathy. The example I use for this is like, we've all had parents, and we've all had times where our parents gave us advice. If our parents just come to us and say, we'll do this, but they didn't actually give any of the empathy of like, yeah, I know this is hard and I'm sorry you're going through this. What about this? Are you open to trying this? Then that's different. But when somebody just gives advice, you're going to say, kick rocks. Like, you don't get me. You don't understand. And so it's just a proof that that empathy was lacking. So I really like they were talking about this. We saw Aniya and Casey have a conversation. Aniya was really feeling happy about that conversation. Casey was really showing that he was getting it, right? You felt the difference. He was legitimately sitting with and leaving space for and affirming and empathizing and validating Aniya's experience and just kind of how shitty he was when he went to Casa and just how kind of disrespectful some of his behavior was towards her. And he was actually able to sit in it, not make excuses, not make it about him, just really to get it and be like, you know what? Yeah, I was kind of a jerk. I'm so sorry about that. That I didn't mean to. I'm not going to make excuses for it. And so I think that was part of the reason why, right, they're able to be on cordial terms right now. It's really hard to get to that place when you feel like you haven't gotten that resolve, right? The other person didn't get it. They didn't actually take the time or the effort to fix something or to make you feel heard and cared about. Casey and Aniya were one of the big ones. And then we also had Sincere and Melanie, which were also one of the big couples kind of going through some major upheavals because of movie night. Not that they weren't already kind of rocky a little bit before then, but they thought going into Casa that they were pretty stable, all good. And then Sincere did a take two of the same kind of behavior that he showed in the villa. And so, they're recovering. Melanie decided, I don't want to sleep in the same bed with him, and basically saying like, I'm here, but he needs to be making the moves right now. He needs to be the one to show me. I'm not gonna be the one putting all the effort in our relationship right now when this is how I'm gonna be treated. I need to stay planted and see how he moves and see where we go from there. But she was definitely giving him another chance, right? She's just kind of backing away out of hurt, right, and saying, Sincere, you're taking the reins right now. We also got to see Caleb, who was talking to other people about how he's kind of feeling as if Jaden is not really like into him maybe as much as he's into her. He's not feeling cared for. It was kind of awkward because he was talking like it was like at nighttime, and like he was talking and like to some people, and it wasn't that far away from Jaden, so Jaden is kind of like, I can hear him talking about me, and then goes over, pulls him, and is a little bit upset about this. She's like, we don't have deeper chats. And if you remember, on one of the past episodes, I brought this up actually. Like, I remember like him saying, oh, we're having deep chats. And I'm like, unless we're talking about ones that are off camera, you both are kind of seeming like very surface level. Like, not as fake as like Corbin and Parmita come off, but definitely was kind of like deep chats. I haven't heard no deep chats. And Jaden kind of confirmed that. She's like, I don't think we have deep chats. I feel superficial. We're not connected. And then you're kind of expecting these things from me. She's like, I kind of need that to feel like we're anything. Caleb was able to admit that he does have his walls up, obviously, from kind of what had happened with Kenzie. I don't think any of us blame him for that. He was very vulnerable and going towards her and just was kind of thrown around like a rag doll with Kenzie, and of course he's gonna have some hurts because of that. So this conversation didn't really go great, but they were able to apologize and kind of talk it out the next day. So again, showed a lot of maturity there. Sometimes we're not always gonna get it the first time we hear something. I tell a lot of my couples that I'm like, we just need to accept that like sometimes it's gonna take two, take three, before we actually get through a conversation that's actually either going to be triggering or spark new insight. It's just not always a realistic expectation that every time we have a conversation, the first time it's going to go well. As I just said before, we had Melanie, who was kind of giving space for Sincere to kind of step up, basically. And he did. He ended up planning this really adorable breakfast date. At first they were kind of like, what's taking so long? And then he ended up coming up and, had all this stuff set up, which was really adorable. So I give him a lot of credit for that one. We had Jen, who was feeling really sad, understandably. She came in, she matched up with Gabrielle. Gabrielle ended up leaving. She was interested in Gaul, and Gaul was kind of like interested in her, but then also like entertaining Kenzie and kind of going back and forth. And so Jen's just really kind of feeling down and being like, when's it my turn? Of course, I feel like a lot of people that come in here feel that way, right? They're coming in for a match to connect with somebody, and it doesn't always happen. I don't want to play the pain Olympics here, but you have people come in who never really get a chance, and you have some that were like, they kind of get it and then it gets taken away. And I think Jen's definitely like the latter, where she's kind of had a couple opportunities and she's found connection, and then like I said, like Gabe got taken away, and then Gaul just kind of like seemed like he wasn't really ready for much. So I totally understand how she was feeling. We do get to hear Gaul talking about, how he is kind of considering other options. He's like, hey, Amora's open. I'm kind of interested in exploring that. She's pretty. I might as well have a chat and see. And then we get awareness of a recoupling is going to happen, and the boys are going to get to choose. This did kind of trigger Jen, I think understandably, because Jen was the one that kind of chose Gaul and basically allowed him to kind of stay in the villa. Otherwise, he would have gone home with some of the other Casa guys. So she was already kind of feeling some type of way of like, oh, now the boys are going to be choosing, and like he's going to have the potential to basically like send me home, which I totally understood where she was coming from, but it is just kind of like the name of the game. And my belief is always things are going to work out the way they're going to work out anyway. Not everybody's going to make it to the end. So like with them not being coupled up, we're already getting pretty far right into the show. The likelihood that either of them were going to make it to the end was pretty low anyway, so I don't really think it mattered that much. But again, it doesn't mean it's still not kind of a wound, and feels kind of messed up when she was kind of being open for him, and then he's kind of like wishy-washy, but then he's the one that gets to stay, right? Not things are always going to be fair, but I definitely, as a fellow person who has like a really like sensitivity around fairness, I could definitely understand how she felt around that. Getting into like the recoupling here, Bryce chose Trinity, no surprise there, their official BFGF. Zach chose Kata. He did mention the L word, which was adorable, but again, I think this is something we'll get to. We've talked a little bit about it, but I'm sure it'll come up a little bit more. Just it's kind of part of like the Zach, kind of a little bit like love bomby kind of thing. Like he's the one that's like seemed more invested, but then he'll be like, well, if I ended up meeting somebody else, and you're like, why would you even say that? Corbin chose Parmita, Dylan chose Kenzie, pretty obvious. Carl chose Aniya. I really liked how they kind of had like some jokes around that, and it was really like kind of like cute little banter. Casey chose TT, Sincere chose Melanie, and Caleb chose Jaden. We kind of expected this to happen. And then we had Gaul. Gaul was really the only one who was kind of up in the air, right? Everybody else, we weren't surprised. We knew who they were going to choose. So it all came down to Gaul, and like whether Gaul was going to choose Jen and stick with Jen and kind of be loyal, or whether he was going to pick Amora and just kind of leave an opportunity for something new to happen. Again, do I think it was going to work out with either of those girls for Gaul? No. So basically it's just now, okay, who's going to be the one that leaves and doesn't get any more chances to meet people? So not surprised. Gaul ended up choosing Amora. Not surprised. He's kind of gotten some shit from Jen. He's been hearing that Jen's been kind of talking shit about him to other people in the villa, and he kind of already closed that off. So I'm not surprised, like, even if it's not going to go with Aurora, that he would have chose her. So again, it kind of sucks. Again, it could be loyalty, it could be just him focusing on himself. Like, I understand why he chose what he chose, and I don't think there was really a right or wrong answer on that. But of course, Jen was sad to be leaving. We do then get the bomb dropped that 4 more Islanders are going to be leaving in this episode. So basically where we go then is we have all the couples kind of in a circle on a platform, and every couple has to vote for 2 people they think are the least compatible. And then the people with the most votes are going to be the ones that leave, the couples. So it's not even like you're picking out individual people, you're sending 2 couples home. And so, we go through this process, we get all the things, all the reasons and etc. Of course, it's always a really uncomfortable thing because they're growing really close to each other to basically have to then kind of vote each other off. And I've talked about this many times of like, we got the OGs who normally kind of stay up for the OGs. And so, some of these votes are not always surprising. So the people that got votes, we had Corbin and Parmita got one. I was actually surprised they didn't get more. Some of the things that are being said are like they actually do have more of a connection. Then you realize a lot of people also agree that they're just very superficial. And like every time Corbin says something, it's like he's talking about himself and not really Parmita. And just some of these things that just make a lot of people question. But there's also people that really think that they actually have something deeper, so who knows, but they did get one vote. I was just surprised they didn't get more. Sincere and Melanie got two. Not surprised after kind of what just came out during movie night and people really questioning mainly Sincere and whether these two were kind of in this toxic relationship. Caleb and Jaden ended up getting 4 votes, so again, not surprised. It was kind of a thing because they were just having like that argument or kind of like disagreement with each other. It's kind of like blood was in the water. So I was not surprised to see them getting votes. It was just mainly going to be, okay, like, are we going more OG? Are we going through who we like more? What are the reasonings? But yeah, I mean, for them, it's like if you had any kind of conflict right before this, and you're a newer person coming in, yeah, you're kind of screwed. So they ended up getting 4. Dylan and Kenzie ended up getting 3. Again, not surprised. It's kind of like the female version of Sincere, right? We saw similar videos of Kenzie kind of having 2 guys before Casa, having 2 guys during Casa, and this kind of thing going on. And then we had Gal and Amora, who basically everybody voted one for them, right? So every couple got 2 votes. Gal and Amora got a vote from every single couple that was there, which we all expected, right? They're the newest couple. They're not even really a couple. They just chose each other. So we kind of knew they were going to be going home. It was just going to be who the second couple was, which is what we were trying to figure out. If you could tell by the numbers, right, Caleb and Jaden ended up being the ones to go home. Again, not surprising because Kenzie is an OG. So we kind of knew Kenzie over Caleb. Probably Kenzie would be the one to stay just based off of OG loyalty, even though Caleb came in not too far after. And the fact that Caleb and Jaden were like actively, or maybe not actively, but like recently in a kind of a conflict. So was not surprised by that at all. So at the end of this episode, we had Jen, Caleb, Jaden, Gal, and Amora all leaving the villa. So we had a whole bunch of people getting out. And they do disclose at the end that America is going to end up voting for who they think the most compatible couple is. And so we're going to kind of see what we do with that. Until next time.